The Legend of Jigong Chapter 93.
You are in for a serious shock.
Yeah, you really are. The Jigong we see in this chapter is a disruptor. He operates entirely outside the boundaries of polite society.
Right, and outside religious dogma and the legal system, too.
Exactly. And yet, as we'll see, his chaotic actions often reveal a much deeper, much more rigorous moral framework than the supposedly, righteous characters he encounters.
It is essentially a masterclass in subversion. So let's set the scene and get you right into the action.
Let's do it.
We pick up the story immediately after Jigong has chased away a notorious thief named Hua Yunlong from the Gufo Temple.
Right, he's just cleared the place out.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If this were a standard action story,
Yeah.
our hero would immediately sprint after the bad guy, right? The chase is on.
You'd think so, yeah.
But Jigong doesn't do that. He secures the temple, and then he doubles back. And his very first act in this chapter is to heal 3 outlaws. And these aren't just any outlaws. The text gives them these incredibly grandiose theatrical nicknames.
Oh, I love the nicknames.
They're great, right? We have Qin Yuanlang, known as the Flying Heavenly Fire Ancestor.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we have Mazak Seon, the Standing Plague God, and Yang Shun, the Thousand Li Leg.
Standing plague god is just a terrifying thing to call a person.
It really is. And these are men who are heavily embedded in the Greenwood outlaw culture of the time.
Yeah.
Highwaymen, thieves, enforcers.
Right.
And the outlaws are completely overwhelmed by this. They pledge their eternal gratitude using this very classic, romantic outlaw phrasing.
Oh, right, the Green Mountains thing.
Yeah, they say, green mountains do not change, green waters flow forever. It's their way of saying, we owe you a life debt, and we will repay it.
Which is funny, because he basically just shoos them away.
Right, he doesn't want them sticking around.
Yeah, he doesn't recruit them to be his disciples or anything. He just sends them packing.
Yep.
He also frees another guy, Lu Si, and sends a woman named Li Liuxi and her brother back home safely. He cleans up the immediate human mess.
But then, and this is key, he delegates the actual bureaucratic cleanup.
Right.
He tells the local officials to take over the Gufo Temple and find a new abbot.
Notice the division of labor there. Jigong handles the miracles, the messy human elements, and the chaotic interventions. But he has absolutely no interest in administration.
None whatsoever. He leaves the paperwork and the property management to the local magistrates.
Which I think is so interesting.
It is. It highlights a core aspect of his philosophy.
Yeah.
He is untethered.
Mm-hmm.
If he stayed to manage the temple, he would become part of the establishment.
Right, he'd be tied down.
Exactly. By walking away, he maintains his freedom to act.
And thank goodness he does, because he walks right into a massive PR crisis at his next stop.
Oh yeah, a huge one.
He heads back to Tifo Temple, and you'd think the locals would be thrilled to see him, but they are furious.
They're ready to riot, basically.
Yeah, and the reason why is just mind-blowing. So, just prior to this excerpt, Jigong had chased away a giant python from the area.
A literal monster.
Right, heroic, right. Well, apparently, while this monster python was living there, people could pay it money to cure their dropsy.
Which is severe edema, right? Massive swelling of the body.
Exactly. So by getting rid of the monster, Jigong accidentally destroyed the local healthcare system. Now the temple is swarmed with untreated, swollen, angry patients.
It is such a fascinating look at the psychology of the crowd.
Right.
We tend to think that people always want to be freed from monsters or oppressive systems. But this text suggests something darker.
Like what?
That people will willingly tolerate
Yeah.
an exploitative system like paying a literal monster if it provides a predictable, reliable service.
Wow. Yeah. The python was terrible, but it offered a cure.
Exactly. Jigong's disruption of the status quo didn't instantly bring utopia. It created a localized healthcare crisis.
Because he took away their crutch without immediately providing a replacement.
Right, and the masses turned on him instantly for it.
It really speaks to how fragile public opinion is. You can be the hero on Tuesday, and by Wednesday morning, you're public enemy #1 because the supply chain broke down.
Exactly.
So how does our brilliant, eccentric monk solve this? He doesn't apologize. He doesn't try to explain the long-term benefits of a python-free ecosystem.
He leans entirely into theatricality.
He really does. He orders dozens of buckets of water to be poured into 10 giant vats. Then he drops in just 10 pieces of his medicine, presumably the same stuff he used on the outlaws.
Right.
And he officially brands it. He declares it to be holy water that will cure dropsy and all other diseases.
And the text specifically notes that the water emits a clear, beautiful fragrance. This isn't just tap water anymore.
It's a whole sensory experience.
Yes. And immediately, mass healings occur. The citizens of Kiowa County go from being a furious mob ready to tear him apart to expressing immense, overwhelming gratitude.
He solves the crisis in an afternoon.
He really does.
But here's what I really want to know. I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone watching this happen. Is Jigong using the theatricality of the holy water as a placebo? Like, is he just putting on show to calm down a panicked crowd, or is this genuinely the most efficient logistical way to distribute a limited amount of medicine to a massive amount of people?
I mean, it is brilliantly both. If we connect this to the bigger picture of public health administration, compliance is always the hardest part.
Totally.
If he just handed out tiny shavings of a pill, people might doubt its efficacy, right? They might fight over who gets the biggest crumb, or they might hoard it.
Oh, that makes sense.
So by diluting it in 10 massive vats of water and wrapping it in the mystical branding of holy water, he accomplishes several things at once.
Right. First, he makes the medicine infinitely divisible. Everyone can get a cup.
Exactly. And second, he ensures compliance because the mystical branding taps into their pre-existing faith structures.
Because they already believed a magical python could cure them.
Exactly. So they easily pivot to believing magical water can cure them.
It's a total masterclass in mass psychology. He understands that the cure isn't just chemical, it's psychological.
The crowd needed a spectacle to replace the spectacle of the python.
Right. He gave them a divine panacea, solved the supply chain issue, and regained his status as the hero, all without breaking a sweat.
And it shows how adaptable he is, you know? He goes from intimate one-on-one healing of outlaws in a back room to managing a mass public health initiative for an entire county, just seamlessly.
It's amazing. But as soon as the physical ailments of Kiowa County are resolved, Jigong immediately pivots again.
Yeah, he doesn't stay still.
He shifts his attention away from physical sickness and targets a different kind of disease. The societal sickness of the criminal underworld and the bureaucratic justice system.
Which brings us to one of my absolute favorite moments in this entire deep dive.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah.
We move from medicine to law enforcement.
Right.
Jigong heads over to the inspection office and takes charge of a prisoner transfer. There's a thief named Feng Yuanzi who had stolen some official documents, and he needs to be escorted to Magistrate Zheng Yuanlong.
Now, Jigong knows something the guards don't.
Right.
He knows that Feng is part of a massive, highly organized gang connected to another notorious thief named Shu Pei, who goes by the nickname the Little Divine Flying.
The network of these outlaws is crucial to understand here.
Absolutely. This is the Greenwood culture. They operate on strict codes of brotherhood, loyalty, and violent retribution.
Like a mafia.
Very much so. If one of their own is captured, they don't just hire a lawyer. They organize an ambush. They intercept the convoy.
And Feng Yuanzi is secretly counting on this. He is completely calm because he knows his network of friends will rescue him on the road.
Right.
So if you're the cops, the standard procedure here is to get more guards, right? Arm the convoy to the teeth, put the guy in a heavy iron cart, and prepare for a shootout.
That would be the typical bureaucratic response.
But Jigong doesn't do that. His countermeasure is so low-tech, yet so incredibly brilliant, it almost defies belief.
It really does.
He instructs the magistrate to take wet yellow mud and completely cover the prisoner's entire head and face.
A take is on there?
Yeah. He leaves only tiny holes for the eyes, nose, and mouth so the guy can breathe. He turns him into a walking mud statue.
This is a phenomenal tactical move. What makes it so brilliant is that it attacks the outlaw network's primary vulnerability, identification.
It's exactly.
The Greenwood Brotherhood relies on reputation, recognizing faces, and knowing who to save. If the outlaws ambush the convoy, they need to know which prisoner is their brother.
It's exactly like modern digital encryption or like the witness protection program.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Instead of building a thicker vault, which just invites robbers to bring bigger dynamite, you scramble the data. You encrypt the prisoner's face.
The outlaws could ride right past him on the road and have absolutely no idea they're looking at their boss.
They can't rescue a man they can't identify.
And think about the psychological impact on the prisoner, Feng Yuanzi. The romance of the outlaw life is tied to dignity and reputation.
Right, standing defiant in chains while your brothers ride over the hill to save you is a glorious fantasy.
Exactly. But being led down the street with a giant blob of wet mud on your head, unable to speak properly, completely stripped of your identity, it is utterly humiliating.
It really is.
Jigong neutralizes the threat not with violence, but with anonymity and humiliation. He deflates the entire outlaw mythology.
And what really strikes me here is the magistrate's reaction. Magistrate Zhang Yuanlong just goes along with it. He doesn't question it at all.
Nope.
You have to remember, Jigong looks like a homeless person. His robes are torn, he's covered in dirt, he probably smells like cheap wine.
He definitely does.
Yet he walks into a government office, tells the chief magistrate to smear mud on a high-profile prisoner's face, and the magistrate just says, "Yes, sir."
It shows the sheer, undeniable weight of Jigong's bureaucratic authority, which exists entirely independent of his physical appearance.
That contrast is central to the Jigong mythos, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In traditional Chinese society, which is heavily Confucian and deeply hierarchical, authority is almost always signaled by outward appearance.
Like official robes, hats, palanquins.
Exactly. The number of guards you have, these are the markers of power, and Jigong aggressively rejects all of those markers.
He proves that true authority doesn't need a uniform.
Yes. The fact that the magistrate obeys him highlights that Jigong operates on a higher jurisdictional level. He is essentially an undercover auditor from the divine bureaucracy, intervening in the mortal one.
Which is a perfect segue into his interaction with the actual rank-and-file mortal bureaucracy.
Oh, boy.
Because while the magistrate might respect him, the guys at the bottom of the ladder are absolutely miserable.
They really are.
Jigong leaves the inspection office with 2 head guards, Chai and Du. And these guys are the classic, overworked, underpaid, beat cops.
They are exhausted. They're complaining bitterly.
Yeah, they've been chasing this other thief, Wai Yanlong, for days, sleeping in the frost and the dew, and they are stressing out because their families depend on their meager salaries. They're completely burnt out.
They represent the grinding reality of the mortal world. They are trapped in a system of labor, duty, and physical limitation.
They are worried about mortgages, essentially.
Exactly. And Jigong, who is supposed to be helping them, responds to their very real mortal anxiety with what appears to be total absurdity.
Total absurdity is an understatement. So he promises them they will catch the bad guy. But then, out of nowhere, he starts complaining that his lice are acting up.
Yeah.
He's itching everywhere. So he starts grabbing literal handfuls of lice from the front of his ragged robes, and he moves them to his back.
And then he grabs lice from his back and moves them to his front.
Right. He's doing this bizarre, gross-out choreography while these guards are trying to conduct a serious police manhunt.
And when Guard Chai, completely exasperated, tells him to just crush them and get it over with, Jigong delivers a deeply layered, philosophical punchline.
Which is just wild. He refuses to crush them.
Yeah, he claims he is moving their house so that they will die from being unacclimatized.
He says they aren't used to the local water and soil of his back versus his front.
Right.
Okay, wait. Let's pause right here. Because when I first read this, I just threw my hands up. Why this elaborate, disgusting lice routine?
It's a lot to take in.
It feels like a slapstick comedy sketch interrupting a police procedural. Why does he do this right in front of these stressed-out guards?
It is slapstick, but it is deeply theological slapstick. What you are seeing is a satirical, extreme adherence to the Buddhist precept of nonviolence, or ahimsa.
Ahimsa, right.
The strict rule is that a monk cannot kill any living creature, not even a pest. By letting the lice die of acclimatization rather than crushing them with his fingers, Jigong is technically avoiding the direct act of killing.
Oh, wow. So he is exploiting a loophole in cosmic karma.
Exactly. But on a deeper level, he is mocking the rigidity of religious dogmatism. He's showing how absurd it is to follow the letter of the law while ignoring the spirit of it.
It's like a corporate lawyer finding a tax loophole, but for karma. Like, Your Honor, I didn't kill the lice. The sudden change in regional microclimate on my torso killed them.
That is exactly it. And the reason he performs this specific absurdity in front of Chai and Du is to highlight the gap between his world and theirs.
The guards are obsessed with the rigid laws of the state. Catching the thief, getting their paycheck.
And Jigong forces them to look at a completely different, much more ridiculous set of laws.
And before they can even process what he's doing, he takes it a step further.
Yeah, he does.
He claims he needs to let the lice get a drink of water, jumps into a river, turns invisible using magic, and vanishes, telling them to meet him in Changshan County.
He just ditches them.
He shakes them off completely.
Yeah.
He uses this bizarre comedy routine as a distraction to literally vanish from their jurisdiction.
Well, he has to. The cynical, exhausted, heavy energy of the mortal guards is anchoring him down.
Right.
If he stays with them, he has to travel at the speed of bureaucracy. He operates on a different plane of urgency.
So by jumping into the river and turning invisible, he washes off the mortal world.
Yes. He leaves the structural constraints behind so he can move freely toward his next encounter.
And that next encounter happens almost immediately as he emerges from the river and heads toward Gutayan Mountain. Free from the complaining cops, he bumps into someone who is, in many ways, his mirror image. He meets a mortal beggar.
But this isn't just someone down on their luck. This beggar is carrying a coin fork and chanting a very specific, fascinating poem.
This poem is arguably the philosophical thesis of the entire chapter, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. The beggar sings, "Eat 1,000 families' food by day, sleep in ancient temples by night. Don't break the law, don't fear the king."
I want to focus on that last line. Don't break the law, don't fear the king. When I read that, it sounded incredibly liberating.
It really does.
It's this idea of complete and total detachment from the rat race. Most of us are terrified of the king or the modern equivalent, the IRS, our bosses, the banks.
Sure.
We fear the hierarchy because the hierarchy can take things away from us. But this beggar is saying, if you own nothing and you desire nothing, you are untouchable.
That is a profound insight. This beggar has achieved political and social freedom through absolute poverty.
Wow.
The state controls people through their desires and their property. If you have land, the state can tax it. If you have a family, the state can threaten them.
Right.
If you want a promotion, you have to obey the king. The beggar has opted out of the entire social contract.
By merely surviving, eating 1,000 families' food, and not breaking any written laws, he exists in a blind spot of the empire.
The king has no leverage over him.
Which perfectly mirrors Jigong's own methodology.
Exactly.
Jigong is a divine being, but he chooses to operate exactly like this mortal beggar. He could live in a grand temple covered in gold leaf, but he chooses to wear rags and drink cheap wine.
Because he understands that the moment you care about your reputation or your possessions, you become a hostage to the system.
Precisely. And this shared philosophy creates an instant kinship between them.
It does. The beggar tells Jigong that he's heading to a wedding to sing joyful songs in exchange for some food.
And Jigong, always ready for a party, says he wants to join him.
But the beggar gives him a reality check.
Right. He points out that people generally hate having monks show up at weddings.
Yeah, because monks are associated with asceticism, renunciation of worldly pleasures, and often funerals. Having a monk at a wedding is considered terrible luck, a real buzzkill.
And Jigong's response is just perfect. He jokes that a monk installing a pot is pretty much the same as being a layman.
It's a very earthy, slightly crude joke about the nature of monastic vows versus domestic life.
Totally. But before they can crash the wedding, they spot someone on the mountain.
Right, it's Lu Tong, one of Jigong's allies.
And Lu Tong is behaving very strangely. He's standing there muttering to himself, completely entranced, staring at a pile of steamed buns mantou that have been dropped on the ground.
Lu Tong is seemingly caught in some sort of trance or deep contemplation, completely oblivious to the urgency of their mission.
And Jigong needs him to snap out of it.
So rather than gently waking him or using magic, Jigong uses shock therapy.
Yeah, he walks up and abruptly tells Lu Tong that his brother Yang was severely harmed down in the temple.
Which works instantly.
Lu Tong snaps out of his daze, panics, drops the steaming buns he was holding, and sprints off down the mountain.
But what happens next is what I find really telling.
Right, Jigong doesn't just walk away. He immediately turns to his new beggar friend and tells him to pick up the dropped steamed buns so they don't go to waste.
This is a crucial detail that anchors this story. We are dealing with a monk who can turn invisible and create holy water that cures thousands.
He has limitless magical power.
Exactly. If he wanted to, he could snap his fingers and conjure a 5-course banquet for this beggar. But he doesn't.
He practices pragmatic charity.
He simply redirects wasted resources.
It grounds the narrative in harsh economic reality. Magic is reserved for battling demons and curing plagues. It is not a substitute for basic human economy.
A dropped bun is still a meal, and a starving man needs it.
It shows that Jigong is deeply connected to the dirt and the grit of the physical world, even as he navigates the spiritual one.
And that connection to the physical world is about to be violently tested.
Oh, yes, it is.
Because by following Lu Tong up the mountain, Jigong transitions away from the mundane world of beggars and dropped food and steps directly back into the realm of high-stakes magical warfare.
We are heading into the showdown at Lingxiao Temple.
The climax of the chapter.
So Jigong heads up to the Lingxiao Daoist temple. He hears Lu Tong screaming for help. Lu Tong is getting utterly destroyed by this powerful Daoist wizard named Ho King Feng who is about to burn him alive.
Right.
Now, if you're a superhero arriving at the final battle, this is where you power up, right? You let your aura glow, you draw your glowing sword, you let the villain know exactly who they're dealing with.
That's the trope, yeah.
But what does Jigong do? The exact opposite. Before he steps out to save Lutong, he reaches up and literally touches his own skull to block his 3 lights.
The text is very specific of this. In this cosmological system, powerful beings emit light.
Okay.
An Arhat emits a golden Buddha light. A golden immortal has a white spirit light. Even a powerful demon emits a thick black aura. By blocking his 3 lights, Jigong is turning off his spiritual signature.
He is intentionally cloaking his power.
Exactly.
So when the terrifying Daoist, Hua Qingfeng, looks over, he doesn't see a divine entity. He sees a short, incredibly skinny, filthy monk with an inch of stubble hair wearing a ragged, greasy robe.
He sees 0 aura, no glowing light, nothing.
And Hua Qingfeng's internal monologue is laid out perfectly in the text. He runs through the checklist like no golden light, no white light, no black aura. This guy is a nobody, a mere mortal.
Hua Qingfeng's internal logic is his fatal flaw here. He is a creature of dogma and hierarchy.
Right.
He relies entirely on visual, magical signifiers to judge a person's worth and threat level. If it doesn't fit into his rigid textbook categories of what power looks like, he assumes the power doesn't exist.
It's the ultimate hustle. Imagine a tech billionaire, a guy who owns half of Silicon Valley, dressing in ratty sweatpants and worn-out sneakers, and walking into a luxury car dealership.
Yeah, that's a great example.
The arrogant salesman takes one look at the sweatpants, assumes the guy is broke, and treats him like garbage.
Or imagine a chess grandmaster sitting down at a park table and pretending he doesn't know how the knight moves, just baiting his opponent.
Right. Jigong is weaponizing his opponent's superficiality.
That is exactly what is happening. The Daoist is a victim of his own arrogance.
Yeah.
He has spent hundreds of years cultivating his magic, but he hasn't cultivated wisdom.
Wow,
He
yeah.
can read auras, but he can't read reality. Jigong uses his opponent's reliance on appearances as a trap.
And once the trap is set, Jigong springs it by opening his mouth. He introduces himself, very proudly, as Ji Dian of the Westlake Lingyan Temple.
And he doesn't just say hello.
No. He immediately starts lecturing this powerful Daoist on breaking the fundamental precepts of his own religion. He accuses them of killing, stealing, lusting, lying, and drinking.
He basically walks into the guy's house wearing rags and gives him a failing grade on his report card.
And Hua Qingfeng absolutely loses his mind.
Oh, he completely loses it.
Yeah. He explodes with rage and starts listing out his massive list of grievances against Jigong. And this list is amazing because it shows just how much history these two factions have.
The Taoist lays it all out. He says, "You burned my disciple Zhang Miaxing to death at the Jiangyun Temple. You ruined Daoist Chang's 500 years of cultivation over at the Tifo Temple."
These are massive, lethal, cosmic grudges.
They really are.
But then, right in the middle of these epic crimes, the Daoist adds, "And you humiliated my other disciple, Jiang Tianrui, by pulling off his beard."
It is such a brilliantly petty inclusion by the author.
He really is.
It completely undercuts the majesty of the Taoist immortals. Here are beings who have practiced mystical arts for 5 centuries, who can summon elemental fire and command spirits, and they are still holding a blood grudge because someone yanked their friend's beard.
It shows that despite all their magical cultivation, they suffer from massive, fragile, profoundly mortal egos. It's basically a magical high school drama. You destroyed my 500-year soul crystal and you embarrassed Kevin in front of everyone. And the ego battle just escalates from there. The Daoist points his sword and demands that Jigong kneel on the ground and call him Grandmaster 3 times if he wants to live.
And Jigong just laughs in his face. He says, "No, you kneel down and call Emmy Grandmaster 3 times, and maybe I'll let you live."
The verbal sparring is just completely breaking down.
Yeah, Jigong has successfully infuriated Hua Qingfeng. He has stripped away the Taoist's mystical composure and reduced him to a petty, angry man shouting insults.
And when the Daoist can't take the disrespect anymore, the verbal sparring inevitably turns into a physical and magical confrontation.
And this physical fight is wild.
It really is. Joaquin Feng lunges with his sword,
Yeah.
going for the kill. Now, again, you'd expect Jigong to counter with some incredible martial arts stance or pull out a magical staff or blast him with a spell.
But instead, Jigong fights like a chaotic little brother.
Yes, he relies on this extreme, almost comical agility. He dodges a thrust, slips around to the Daoist's back, and pinches him.
Pinches him.
The Daoist spins around and thrusts at his heart. Jigong dodges again and just reaches out and slaps the Daoist right across the face.
A physical slap across the face. In the context of a duel between spiritual masters, that is the ultimate degradation.
But I have to push back here.
Right.
Why doesn't Jigong just blast him with magic immediately? We know he has the power. Dodging razor-sharp swords so you can pinch and slap a guy seems unnecessarily risky. One wrong move and he gets decapitated. Why play this dangerous physical game?
Because the goal isn't just to defeat the Daoist, the goal is to break him psychologically.
Oh.
If Jigong uses a massive spell right away, it validates the Daoist. It says, we are equals, engaging in a high-level duel of the arcane arts.
I see.
By refusing to use magic initially, and instead treating this deadly duel like a childish playground scrap, Jigong completely shatters the Daoist persona. He is telling him, you aren't even worth my magic, you are a joke.
Wow.
It is intense psychological warfare designed to make the Daoist lose control.
And it works perfectly. Joaquin Feng is so humiliated by the slap that he loops back to create distance, and he finally resorts to his heavy magical artillery.
Right.
He pulls out a magic treasure, begins chanting an incantation to Tesheng Laojun, one of the highest deities in Taoism, and he summons this strange, mystical wind.
And out of this wind fly these intricate paper animals, deer, cats, foxes.
But as they hit the air, they transform into real, terrifying, bloodthirsty beasts that charge at Jigong.
This is the Daoist's trump card. It is a highly ritualized, complex form of learned magic. It requires props, the paper figures. It requires a specific treasure. It requires invoking an ancient deity.
It is magic as a technology, something you study for centuries to master.
Exactly.
And how does Jigong counter this centuries-old, highly complex technological magic? He doesn't pull out a bigger prop. He doesn't invoke a bigger god.
No, he doesn't.
He just stands there, points his finger, and chants the 6-syllable mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. That's it, just 6 syllables. A burst of yellow light flashes, and instantly, all the terrifying beasts revert right back into harmless pieces of paper and flutter to the ground.
The contrast here is the entire point of the battle. The author is contrasting two fundamentally different approaches to spirituality.
The Taoist magic is external, right?
Yes, it relies on tools, rituals, and borrowing power from external gods. Jigong's magic is internal. The 6-syllable mantra is the most fundamental, universal mantra in Mahayana Buddhism.
Right.
It represents the inherent, compassionate enlightenment that exists within everyone. Jigong doesn't need props because his power is a manifestation of his own enlightened state.
It highlights the absolute superiority of inherent spiritual truth over learned, flashy, magical tricks.
He basically unplugs the Taoist's elaborate magical machine with a single word.
And Joaquin Feng is desperate now. He tries a second wave. She summons a swarm of venomous snakes and giant pythons.
But Jigong doesn't even change his strategy.
He repeats the exact same 6-syllable mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. Another flash of yellow light, and the snakes just vanish. It's effortless. He is swiping away these ultimate attacks like they are pop-up ads on a computer screen.
But the Taoist has one last, terrifying move. The excerpt ends on a massive cliffhanger.
It does.
Realizing that his physical attacks and his animal illusions have completely failed, Joaquin Feng lights a fire.
Oh.
And he uses a spell to summon what the text calls the Samadhi True Fire. The excerpt ends with Jigong completely surrounded by these roaring, inescapable flames.
Okay, so for the listener who might not know Eastern mythology, what exactly is the Samadhi True Fire? Is it just a really hot campfire? Why is this the cliffhanger?
The Samadhi True Fire is not normal fire. In Buddhist and Taoist cultivation lore, it is a spiritual flame.
Okay.
It is fueled not by wood or oil, but by the practitioner's own vital energy, their spirit, and their focused intent. Water cannot put it out. Normal defenses cannot block it. It is designed to burn away the soul, not just the physical body. By summoning this, Joaquin Feng has raised the stakes from a physical fight, and even an illusion fight, to a direct attack on Jigong's very existence.
Wow. He's basically gone nuclear. He can't beat him physically. He can't beat his illusions. So he is trying to erase his soul from the cosmos.
And that is exactly where the source material cuts off, leaving us hanging in the flames.